I learned early on the importance of storytelling in science education. When I was a student at Oberlin College, I had a wonderful professor. I only remember his first name, George. But every Sunday, he would lead a hike in the Arboretum. And whatever was blooming, whatever caught his fancy, he had a story. It's like he knew every plant on a first-name basis. And through his stories, we were immersed in the world and the thinking of a scientist. I remember one Sunday in particular, he paused down in the floodplain next to this ancient cottonwood tree. And he said, "Cottonwood has a unique characteristic. If you break off a branch and you stick it in the mud, it will sprout. It's called regeneration." He said, "I learned this when I was a little boy. You see, my father, who was also a botany professor at Oberlin College, he would lead hikes in the Arboretum. And one day, he said, Cottonwood has a unique characteristic. If you break off a branch and stick it in the mud, it will sprout. It's called regeneration." Now, I was a 7-year-old boy, and I thought, poppycock, if you break off a stick, it's dead. It will not sprout. Now, I have more respect for my father than to openly refute him in front of his students. But a few days later, when I was hiking in the Arboretum, one of those summer thunderstorms began to blow in. Do you love a good storm? Big black cumulonimbus clouds, bolt of lightning, and the sound of thunder instantaneously. Most people see a storm and they run for cover, but not me. I love a good storm. Well, as I was here in the floodplain, the wind broke off a twig and it landed in the mud. And I thought, Eureka! Here's a chance to prove my father wrong. Every day I came back for several days, and sure enough, as soon as the sun came out, those leaves began to lose turgid pressure. They began to wilt. And I had the evidence, the data I needed. So I went and I told my father he was wrong. My father, he's a very understanding man. He said, "You're jumping to conclusions. You need to collect more data. I want you to go back to the tree at least 10, maybe 20 more days, and then tell me what you see." Well, wanting to be a good student and a good son and a good scientist, I did what my father told me to do. I went back to the twig, and sure enough, as soon as it began to rain, those leaves began to fill with fluid. After 20 days, wanting to collect a little more data, I dug down at the base of that twig, and I saw small roots beginning to grow. My hypothesis was wrong. Sometimes we learn more from our mistakes than we do our successes. And my father was right. Cottonwood has a unique characteristic. If you break off a twig and stick it in the mud, it will sprout. It's called regeneration. And now you know it is true. Because this cottonwood was that little twig more than 70 years ago.